Stephen, more than half now, it's official, of these people crossing the channel from Albania. Why doesn't the government simply send them back? There's no war in Albania, there's no conflict, and if they're victims, if they've been people smuggled, well, then we can send them straight back.
Well, unfortunately, we can't, Andrew, because as we know from a substantial number of those people who have arrived from Albania, many of them are claiming that they are victims of modern slavery. And once they become a victim of the modern slavery and make that application, they go into the national referral process. And that process is a really seriously long process to achieve. It can take absolutely years for the government, their officials, and sometimes even involved in the Crown Prosecution Service of finding out whether those people are genuinely victims of modern slavery. So unless the government starts to change the processes and the legislation surrounding that particular act, they will be able to stay for much longer.
Stephen, can you explain to people watching this and listening to this now, what are we talking about when we're talking about modern slavery?
Well, modern slavery is quite a broad spectrum for when you're looking at the legislation and the way that those in the Crown prosecution are looking at. For example, somebody who is a young boy part of the county lines in a major case was deemed to have been initially someone who was a victim of modern slavery, i.e. that they were forced to sell the drugs because of their age and the power of the gangs. So when you're looking at the Albanians, those who are claiming modern slavery are saying that they were forced to come over here by paying €5,000 to the gangs, and they're forced to work here for the gangs in criminal activities or into lower work in the black economy, and therefore they are victims. Now, we would argue that if you paid €5,000 to a people smuggling gang, then you know that you're going to be a victim of smuggling and therefore a victim of modern slavery. So why should we take that responsibility? And many would see that as a valid argument.
And this modern slavery legislation was a consequence of Theresa May's time as Home Secretary, which more and more now we're seeing was a complete disaster, not least when she axed 20,000 police officers.
Oh, absolutely. I think the problem with Theresa May is that she always wanted to be seen as a nice woman who could balance the arguments between both sides and therefore not make any controversial decisions. And therefore she was unable to make decisions like Priti Patel did, which is create the Rwanda scheme with the possibility of transferring those who'd failed the asylum process or even arrived here illegally to be transferred out of the country. She would never do that, and that's why she's arguing vehemently against the Modern Slavery Act being amended, because it's the only piece of legislation that she has left that would be deemed to be positive to her prime ministerial reign. She has nothing else other than that.